Our guest today served as a security and intelligence covert operative. That means a spy. Has over 20 years of experience with government organizations, including the British Ministry of Defense, corporations, ultra high net worth and VIPs. He has a first class honors bachelor's degree in psychology. He's an expert in surveillance, anti surveillance, statement analysis, mind control, neuro-linguistic programming, and body language. He's also written a book, How to Tell If Someone's Lying, and two spy fiction novels. His name is Stone, Gavin Stone. Honestly, Gavin, in your
I'm not
line of
even.
work, and when you
I was gonna say I'm not even sure that's his real name. It's not his real
that's true.
name.
That's true. When you tell people what you've done and what your job is, how many times do people say to you, "Oh, like James Bond, right?" How many
Yeah,
times does that really happen?
so I get one of two reactions. I either tell people what I do, and they either turn around and go, "Wow, that must be so cool. Tell me all about it." Or I get the completely opposite reaction where they go, "Nah, I don't believe you."
Okay.
So it's one or the other.
And the people that don't believe you, you're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Did they say like, tell me something juicy to prove it?
I've found, and this is through experience, that you just can't prove it. That it doesn't matter what you do or what you can show them your contract off the Home Office, you can show them your MOD credentials, you can show them you can show them anything, and the cognitive dissonance will kick in. As like,
Yeah.
no, that could be photoshopped, that could be printed at the local printer. So you just like, and I think online is even worse. I remember I put a first aid kit for sale online the once, and somebody said this has been stolen off an ambulance. I said no, it's my own trauma pack, and we got into this great big. It ended up with the police coming round to find out if it was actually stolen or not. I said, if it was, do you really think I'd be daft enough to put it online for sale? So yeah, I just like I leave them to it, whatever. Yeah.
So how did you get into this profession? I'd imagine it's not something that you just went on Indeed and, just was like, oh, look, the British Ministry of Defense is looking for a spy.
Well, no, I didn't. In fact, so MI6 have actually got this thing now where you can actually apply direct, but the traffic is so high, especially every time a new James Bond movie comes out, and the chances of getting even looked at are just 1,000,000 to 1. The lottery winning odds at best. The usual way is in every kind of college and university in the UK there is a spotter, and it's their job solely to look out and source anybody who really stands out. For that'd be ideal for MI6 or MI5, and give them a little tap on the shoulder and introduce them to somebody from MI6 and say, look, I think this would be a good fit. Yeah, obviously they speak to MI6 first and say, look, this is the guy, what do you think, shall we do the intro? So that's the usual way. But the truth of the matter is, and this goes for any intelligence community pretty much around the world, if the intelligence agencies have got a use for you, then you'll get a job. It's as simple as that. There's like over 100 kind of drone pilots in Nevada right now working for CIA. They're just civilians. So it's a case of like, if they can use you, they'll employ you. So with me, it was I built my way up from the very, very bottom. I started doing investigations and fraud investigations and working for government departments, and just literally built up to human intelligence gathering over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And
Speaking
what's
of
that?
MI6, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Good.
No, I was gonna say, speaking of MI6 and James Bond, is there anything true or in real life to what we see in movies in MI6? Meaning all the toys and all the license and the phone call you pick up and somebody brings you a new suit and
So some of it is and some of it isn't. I mean, yeah, there is like a Q department, and there is what they call a props department and that kind of thing. So you can get the sometimes it's gadgets, sometimes it's just things that are used to kind of cover your identity or whatever the case may be. But the whole movie side of it, the majority of it, it's just for poetic license. It's not quite as it is in the movies. And I have said a couple of times on these podcasts, if you're going through a foreign country and you're in a car chase, shootouts, explosions, and all the other things going on, then you're doing a very bad job of your job. You've got it all wrong.
So James Bond is really bad at his job, is what you're saying?
Well, what can I say?
Because he always gets the information in the end,
Well, he gets information, he gets the girls, he gets the car. He gets
Oh no, yeah. See, I didn't get an Aston Martin. I was really disappointed.
But you got the girls. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I've been lucky there in that department.
I listened to one of your other podcasts where you were talking about some of the things that you did, and especially this the Russian railgun story.
Oh yeah.
And so I was wondering, what's the biggest misconception between what people think you actually do, like on a daily basis, and what you actually do on a daily basis when you wake up?
I think a lot of it is because of the Hollywood education of all the drama, gunshots, and the other side of it is it's very glamorized. You got this whole Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of everybody has to be perfect at everything. But it's kind of I've caught my car keys before I've dropped them kind of scenario. And if I had $1 for every time I tripped up, then I wouldn't need to work for the rest of my life. So the fact that this kind of impression of a spy is somebody that never makes a mistake, always gets everything right, instantly brilliant at everything they turn their hand to, that's a fallacy. What it is, they're looking for somebody who is teachable in anything. So you have to be able to approach anything with an open mind. So if you get kind of tasked to become good at something, you get a lot of people in life that go, oh, I just can't do that, and they give up, and they don't understand the learning curve and how to adjust and reapproach. So if you get to that level where you understand that if any human on the planet can learn it, then so can I, and that's your first big barrier, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody who's adaptable.
What does the training actually involve? Do they put you through like a military training? You're running 10 miles a day, reading 15 books in a week.
There's some paramilitary stuff. There is some it's not mandatory reading, but it's recommended reading. And there is when I say recommended, it's like heavily recommended.
Like you better do it.
Yeah, right. You want to job, you read it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of there is the bits and pieces where you do have to shoot, you do have to drive, you do have to do hand-to-hand combat, you do have to know these things, but they're your safety net. They're not your go-to. There's more time spent on the actual psychological side of things and the human element of learning how to get yourself into and out of situations, how to get yourself invited to parties or win somebody over and kind of make friends, as it were.
Oh, please do. Please do tell me how to do that, because my wife tells me that my small talk is crap. And I have no idea how to interact with people. Please do tell me how I can get invited to cocktail parties.
Yeah, you got married to her. I mean,
some people got game, some people don't. Did you say you can attest to that, Suzanne, by the way? Is that what you said?
What? Yes.
Did you say you can attest to that?
Yes, because we were at a party, remember? For the Wheel of
We've been to parties together. Oh, yes.
Small talk sucked.
Yeah. Okay, so help me out with small talk, Gavin, please.
So the trick is, from what I've been told, and I actually learned this from a guy called Robin Dreek, and he is just fantastic when it comes to small talk, because he will ask somebody one simple question, whether it's what was your first job or whatever, and they'll go back to oh, my first job was a printer, and he'll just say, what inspired you to do that? And all of a sudden, it's a question that people don't get asked. And what did inspire me to do that? And they go back to a flood of memories. They go back in time, and it's a provocative question that gets them really thinking and gets them going. And then you can build on it so much from there, because there will be somebody somewhere that will have seen something in you. And you say, so what did he see in you to give you that job above all other people, or what? Yeah, and you can just keep kind of asking those questions of your mentors and your that kind of thing. And because the person's talking about themselves with good memories, it generally builds that rapport a lot faster.
That's interesting. That's
good.
part of psychiatric training is ask open-ended questions.
Mm,
Don't
Yeah.
ask positive. No, don't ask closed-ended
Don't ask the
questions.
closed-ended
yeah.
questions.
So, is part of the training learning languages too?
So it can be. It's not essential. And especially, I mean, CIA have a language program, and what they will tend to do is they will stick you somewhere that, if you're fluent in Chinese, they will tend to look at what you're good at and say, okay, he's good at Chinese, let's send him over to China. On the other hand, if you are good at Chinese but they desperately need somebody in Kazakhstan, then they'll say, right, get onto the language program. You're going to go to Kazakhstan. You've got, X amount of time to learn that language and get over there. So
How many do you know?
three or four. So I speak little tiny bit of German, which I've forgotten more than I can remember. Uh, a slight little bit of Russian, which I'm out of practice with my Russian.
Oh, вы
So
говорите по-русски?
да, не очень хорошо. Немного, но не очень хорошо.
Ну, очень хорошо. Да, я тоже.
Спасибо, спасибо.
I agree.
So
I agree. I agree. That makes a lot of sense to me. I agree with you too. I agree.
yeah, I'm not as good as I used to be, and but I'm still kind of every now and again I go back, revisit, and brush up. But yeah,
And what's the third one?
third one, and again is Spanish, but I've forgotten more than I can remember because it keeps coming back to me in the wrong order, and I can never remember the difference between coffee and beer. So whenever
I don't know the difference either. And we live in South Florida. Like I don't even know.
yeah, you really should know it there, right?
Really should know Spanish.
Entonces, ¿estás
that gets
bebiendo
me
What's in your
cerveza?
cup, Gavin?
¿Estás bebiendo cerveza o café? ¿Eso es café o cerveza?
Oh
Ah,
my
so-
god! There we go. It's
that somebody knows.
That's our resident Spanish speaker. There we
Hey,
go.
I'm gonna come to
If
you for
you-
lessons.
If you go into another country and you don't know the language that well, how do you then do those skills to get invited? And what do you do in those situations?
Luckily, English is spoken pretty much everywhere the majority of the time by so many people, which is great for me. It makes my life a little bit easier. But I do tend to try to learn some very basics to every country I go to, even if I forget it straight away afterwards, which I did with Greece. I went to Greece. I learned enough Greek to get me by while I was there. And now I come back and I can't remember a single word in Greek. I think maybe kebab, and that's about it. And other than that, I'm in trouble if I have to go back.
Well, speaking of languages, and I do see that you were trained in body languages. People think, well, at least I think that learning body languages is mostly reading people. But in your line of work, did you have to also not only reading people, but also act certain way so people could be more comfortable around you? So how much of the reading and how much of your communicating with your body language that you had to do in your work?
Oh yeah, you do have to kind of give project a kind of very confident, give a secure and safe environment, and give the impression that you can handle no matter what's thrown at you. Whatever comes your way, you can say, look, it's not going to be a problem. We can deal with this. Because the most important thing is about making that asset feel safe. If you're recruiting somebody to basically commit treason, depending on which country you're in, the consequences can be pretty damn severe. So they need to have serious amounts of confidence in your abilities. So yeah, body language, both reading and projecting, is vital.
How do you know the information you're getting from them is true?
So if it's what they call single source information, then that can be a lot trickier. But generally, what you will have is that kind of, and it won't necessarily always be yourself. You'll have half a dozen assets in the area, and if 5 people are saying something is blue and one person is saying it's red, that's when you start going, hang on, well, his intelligence isn't matching up with the intelligence of these other 5 guys over here. And what you will do, you won't call him out on that. You will then take things further to find out if that's somebody who's been a double agent. They may have gone back and say, hey, I've been recruited and they're getting intelligence out of me. So their superiors are sending false information through them to come to us. So then we have to play a battle of whips to kind of make it look like we know certain things or don't know certain things, and yeah, it's a great big game of chess.
How do you get these guys to sorry, Suzanne, how do you get these guys to trust you then? It can't just be all cocktail parties and nights out drinking.
No,
because
no.
you're
If it,
asking them to commit treason, like you said.
yeah, yeah. If it was that easy, if it was all cocktail parties, then my life would definitely be a lot easier. And of course, it depends on where you're operating. Everything will change. Even operating on home turf will be completely different to operating on in foreign countries. And then again, depending upon the country you're in, will depend on how your approach goes. The systematic kind of method, as it were, is something called mice or rice, which stands for money, ideology, compromise, and ego. Occasionally, when it's called rice, the money is replaced with reward. Uh, and compromise have changed recently to coercion. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. They switch and change these things all the time. And then the last acronym I heard from CIA was something called SADRATS, and I can't even remember what the hell it was. It was an acronym which stands for like source, asset, deploy, blah blah blah. I got they had this thing that what
So
you're meant to
mice
do,
turned
and
into stab rats is
yeah.
basically what happened.
So, but yeah, but the bottom line is, I mean, MI6 keep it really, really simple. Motivation, access, security. It's as simple as that. What motivates them? And then use that motivator to kind of get them on board. Have they got access to the secrets we want? And then lastly, security. That's the one that all the guys at MI6 ignore. They don't care whether it's secure or not. It's not. It's as simple as that. It's so they just have to do their best to kind of, damage limitation, as it were.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of
what kinds
secrets, go ahead, Susan.
What kinds of things have you been asked to get information on? Like in general, not specifics, obviously, because I know that you're not allowed to talk about certain things,
Yeah.
obviously. So why would they send you out to get information and intelligence? On what
So it'll all be what's down to adjusting the political landscape, and they might send you to say you've got a particular Russian president, and they say, look, we've spotted something. We need you to get next to his advisor or his doctor, and we need to know. There was this thing not so long back where they spotted his walk, and they said, his left arm's not moving while his right arm's swinging. Could this be a medical condition? And so the idea is you go in with the intention of getting close to maybe his medical advisor and getting information out of them, because if it turns out that he's got some kind of terminal illness, we have to then look at the political landscape that's going to follow if something happens to him or if he steps down. Who's going to take his place? Who are the potential people that are going to take over? And how is that going to affect us in our country, in the rest of the world and everything else? If the good guy gets in, is he going to be an ally, or if somebody who's a bad character gets in, is that going to be, a serious threat to Western civilization? So that's a simplified version, but yeah, obviously, it's a lot of it is down to like kind of the information that will shape the political landscape.
And
many
speaking
different
of
countries have you been?
different countries you have been? Some questions.
Oh, different countries. I've actually lost count. Tens of dozens. If I sat here like kind of thing, I was actually going to get one of them scratch off maps once. Have you ever seen those where you can
Yes.
scratch off each and every? I just thought there'd just be a pile of black bits of scratched off stuff on the floor and a big one single coloured map with one or two dots left. So I just thought, no,
So which
I'll leave that.
continents have you not been to? Is that a better question?
Been to all of them.
Including Antarctica.
Oh no, Antarctica. Oh yeah, that reminds me actually. I noticed. Was it last week's show you did something on the Miami aliens?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a wonderful conspiracy going around that if you reverse the exact global coordinates of them all, it brings you smack bang in the middle of Antarctica, and that was why they reckon the aliens made a mistake. So they've flown halfway across the galaxy, and the dyslexic aliens have managed to land in the wrong place. You're
mute.
You're
You're
muted.
muted.
You're muted.
We are super confident, by the way. I just want to point out that this totally and 100% not incompetent show is very competent. I just want to hold the thought about the aliens. I do want to get into conspiracy theories with you. We're going to break some news with you, Gavin.
But let me ask you something.
Dyslexic.
Hold on. You mentioned Intel. We talk about Susan asked you about Intel and secrets. Is there? You don't have to tell me which one, what they are or not. But were there any information in your life or secrets in your life that you gathered that you wish you had not, that you'd be like, oh man, I wish I wasn't the one that they sent to get that information. What am I doing with this now?
Yes, please,
Yeah.
something juicy.
I can't share what it is, but I can tell you there's lots of things, everything from information that I've found out to jobs I've been offered that I've turned down because of the ramifications of those particular contracts, right up to, I mean, even the training to a degree, which teaches you to kind of, and my dad hates it. My dad's a news freak. He's got the news on all the time, and he's constantly keeping up with, everything that's going on in the world and all the headlines. And I'm completely the opposite, because I'm watching the news and I'm going, yeah, no, that's not right. And I'm looking.
I was gonna ask you that. Have you ever been watching it and he's like, "Oh, can you believe that he's gonna?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. He's gonna die tomorrow anyway." Have you ever been like that?
I've had loads of stuff like that, and the worst of it is because there are systems that are used. So like you've got different kind of here in the UK, MI6 has got this thing called IOPS, which is information operations, and they kind of work alongside with the news to kind of help guide where we want things to go. And there's it's really complicated, but there's lots of things that they try to use to steer the opinions of the masses, whether it's war related, whether it's politics related. And of course, if you look at a lot of them, they have a lot of similarities. You can see scripts and certain buzzwords and certain.
Oh no, Gavin, you're not helping us with this.
I know.
What you're basically making this accusation is that the government is feeding the narrative to the media.
Oh, would I say something like that?
Oh no. Well, that brings me to my next. Oh no, and we just did a whole thing on Aaron Rodgers saying that the media is feeding a narrative to the people. Well, Aaron Rodgers does some things correct, I guess. Well, look, that actually brings me to my next question, which is: have you ever been out on an assignment and you found out some intelligence about the guys that sent you out that was negative about them, and then was wondering, what do I do with this information about, my own government that is negative, or the VIP that hired me, and what do I do about this?
So yes, on some occasions, some I've had to deal with personally. The majority of the time, it's so not always. I've had about 5 or 6 different things come to my head at once, from when I've been hired by private clients to in comparison when I've been working for the government. So it's kind of they've all shot through, and I've had a brain freeze of which is the best one to talk about. So if I start with a private client that I was hired to do a particular job for once, yes, I did go down the path of completing the job for him, and I won't tell you what it is, but when I was in the middle of it, I found out that there was something a lot more nasty at hand. So I reversed and just said I'm out, and went another way and actually got the whole thing scrapped for him. So I didn't get much in the way of thanks for that. That sounds so nebulous and so vague. I'm sorry I can't be any more specific with that.
That's fine. That's fine.
So on the other hand, I've done jobs for the government, and I've gone out to a particular country and I've done a little task, and let's just say I know what's caused it, and then I've come home and then I've watched the news, and then the news is saying something completely different, and I'm thinking, no, I know, because I was I was the guy who made that happen, and they're blaming, so yeah, that happens a lot.
And Dimitri and I relate to this as well. In our work in the forensic area, you as a forensic psychiatrist, me as a forensic psychologist, we'll be working on cases, and some of them are high profile in the news. And then same thing, you hear things in the news and you're like, it's not really what happened, but we can't say anything, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to keep hush and just do our job.
But this is making me very sad, because it's making the conspiracies sort of come to life. And again, hold that thought. You wrote a book called How Can You Tell If Someone Is Lying? I like to play poker. Tell me how to figure out if somebody's bluffing.
The easiest way is to look for what's not normal for them. So if you've got somebody who normally, I mean, this is probably going to be teaching grandmothers to suck eggs, but somebody who gently slides their chips into the table, in one pile, and they do this every single time they place a bet, but then all of a sudden they look at the cards and they just throw their chips in rather than slide them across the table. That is not normal for them. That's not their baseline. So if there's a change, you've got to ask yourself why there's a change. So what you're looking for effectively is just change. Anything that is different and abnormal.
That's pretty cool.
So-
Pretty simple and pretty cool. That's good.
Excellent.
Go to the
That should
harder
be the
rock
mental
now,
health
let's
tip
go.
of the day, actually.
That should be.
The mental health gambling tip of the day.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good.
Gavin Stone. Day full, your poker day full of hiccups.
Yeah,
Need a
I'm-
I
shake
have
up.
to go by. I'm heading over to
Yeah,
I've never heard gambling and mental health in the same sentence being positive.
neither have I. I didn't think that was. I don't want to ever be the one that's quoted
No, we're
for
not,
that.
we're not,
you
gonna,
know?
we're not
No,
doing
no,
that. Do not do this.
No,
Disclaimer.
we're not
Don't do-
advocating.
We're gonna put a
gambling.
big disclaimer about
Dimitri
gambling.
is
in
bad.
here.
Do not do what I just do not do what I should. Actually, I forgot to ask you this earlier, but I imagine just up and absconding to another country in the middle of the day, must affect your personal relationships. How do you handle these kinds of personal relationships with this job?
Alcohol, lots of meaningless sex, kind of enjoying
James Bond. James
So there you
Bond.
go. See, when you said, "Do they get some of it right?" Yeah, there are some bits. Right. Actually, what it's done over the years, it's actually affected my relationships more on the side of not on the kind of getting up and going away, but one particular occasion I got into a relationship and I didn't tell her what I did. I just said I worked security. And after a while, it was starting to get serious. So I sat her down and said, "Well, look, the kind of security that you think I'm working isn't really what I'm actually doing. It's more national." And so she kind of took it all in, and at the end of it all, she just looked at me and said, "So our entire relationship has been a lie?" And I said, "No, no, not all of it, just the bit about my job." But it turns out that was enough to kind of annoy her enough to get him go and never speak to me again.
Or was she a spy working for someone else to get to you?
Oh, I hope not. I think if she was,
Oh.
We got to
I
put
think-
a twist in this,
yeah,
So,
no,
yeah,
if-
are you skeptical of people you meet? Or are you
Yeah.
always thinking this is a spy? Or does she really like me?
more so like this is going to sound crazy, but guys, when if you get like kind of some gentleman who's all of a sudden approaching you and starts talking to you, my guard goes up and it's like, who are you? What do you want? Why are you here? So
So we could be spy for what you know.
yeah, you could be.
Sure that
So-
you did enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
This
we are.
totally incompetent show that can't even get an HD video out on YouTube is 100% a spy organization. That's
Actually,
what a
Who-
brilliant cover.
Yeah, will this get you in trouble? Like, will this appearance could get you in trouble?
No, so the only things that I'm kind of limited to what I can talk about really are specifics. So I can tell you about training, I can tell you about kind of countries I've been to, I can tell you about jobs I've done loosely, as long as I don't tell you this particular gentleman was recruited by me in this year and gave me this secret, and
Okay.
because that as long as I don't share the secrets, then the rest of it is pretty
Yeah.
much.
Now, at
So-
one point, the secret society tried to ban one of your books, right?
Yeah, that was something that I put a Freemason's secret in my debut fiction novel, just to wind them up. And I was hoping that it would make bigger headlines than it did, and I was hoping like kind of to go down the route of Peter Wright of MI5, who in the 90s he wrote the book Spycatcher, created it in a way that he knew it was going to get banned, and it went straight to #1. So I tried to kind of follow his example there. I did exactly the same. I revealed the Freemason's secret in the book, hoping that some Freemason somewhere would go, we want to get this banned, which they did. They moved to get it banned, and it was unsuccessful. It's still on the shelves, but it didn't affect book sales as much as I'd hoped it would.
Yeah. So here's what I understand. So you here with us, you're saying, I'm Gavin Stone. My entire life, I've been hired to get some information. How is this not interfering with what you do? Like, let's say somebody watched this podcast, and then next month you go to a country, and then you say, "Oh, I'm the new handyman in this building," or whatnot. So how is this not hurting your
Yeah.
your work.
I'm not working in the field at all anymore. I do a
Okay.
bit of consultancy. I'm doing my books. I do one or two courses and that kind of thing where I do a bit of teaching. But as for work, field work, not so much anymore.
So
And
you've been compromised, as they say. I'm
yeah.
always
We'll,
going to say
we'll,
that.
we'll call it that. But why not?
Without saying it. Now, in one of your books about, you know, being able to tell if someone's lying, right? You talk about the 12 lines.
Oh, that was the cold read book. Yeah.
Cold read book. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so so I'm going to apologize to everybody in advance who ever bought that book because it's about 40 pages long, and it was actually part of an experiment. It was part of a split test when I was first started to write to see kind of what works and what doesn't. And so I put a load of different books out there. I tried different titles, different marketing methods, blah blah blah, and that book just went absolutely crazy. Like just kept selling, and still does to this day. Just keeps selling every single day. I go and check, and it's up there on the charts. And it was one of those things that when it came to finishing the test, and even though it's dreadful, there's typos in it, and it's got great big fonts, and it's not even formatted properly or anything else. I couldn't bring myself to delete it because it's so popular and everybody loves it so much. So I just left it running. But the 12 lines you mentioned they're just stock lines. And if ever you've been to anybody who's supposed to be a psychic medium, you'll hear those Barnum statements, they're called.
Because they read like a horoscope.
Yeah.
Very general and very blanket statements.
Yeah.
That can
Basically,
apply to
that's it.
anyone.
Yeah. So there you go. If Dimitri, if you do want to get into the kind of the small talk game, that's perfect for you. Cold read like a spy. There's 12 stock lines in that, and literally people, you can say them. They sound like they're fitted to that individual, and they will go, "Wow, you can see into my soul."
Wow. Okay. Is there a way that I can tell if I'm talking to a spy?
If you're a spy, yeah. Not always, no. So it's there are ways if you've got somebody in the same industry where you can ask them particular questions where you can identify, are you one of us, as it were. That's something I definitely can't share, but yes, you can. There are
Like a secret handshake, no?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite spy movie that you're like, yeah, that one's the best, or like a favorite fictional spy?
Oh, I think, to be honest with you, I like The Recruit, which was very, very close a few years ago to a lot of the reality in the
I remember
training
that
was there.
movie.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I do like watching James Bond because I grew up on it, but it's not something I watch. I watch it knowing it's entertainment, you know, and you've got to suspend your beliefs. So
Okay. Who should be the next James Bond?
me.
All right, there you go. You're putting your hat in the ring. There you go.
Yeah.
There was
No,
zero
no.
hesitation there. Zero hesitation.
No, actually, you probably do a pretty good job yourself, Dimitri. Why don't you put yourself forward?
I don't think I can do the accent.
He's a Russian implant. He can't.
Yeah, a
He's
bit of
a Russian
I can do
practice.
the accent.
Either Russian or James Bond.
I can practice, but I would love to do it. I'm also 5'4", so I don't think that's gonna work.
No, that's fine. We can give you a big haircut or something.
Elevator shoes, right?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
what is the coolest high tech gadget? You said you do have like a Q department. What's the coolest thing they ever gave you?
Oh, let me think. What was it? Actually, this was actually while I was working over for the Americans, and basically I just had a little card, like the credit card type thing. You know, when you go to a hotel and you blip the card and it opens your room door up. It was one of them that just literally open any access card door, whether it was fob card, whatever, and it would just open anything.
God.
Unfortunately, they made me give it back.
Oh,
I tried to tell them I lost it, and they said, "No, you haven't."
That's a shame. That's a shame.
That's a cool one. Yeah.
Okay, a few more things. Let's do some real reporting here.
Okay.
Let's confirm or debunk some real conspiracy theories here for us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Tell us for real. Are extraterrestrial aliens real?
Yes.
Okay, for real, just tell us.
I wouldn't have a clue. It's not my department.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Come on.
about the
know
whole
something.
Antarctica.
Is that jellyfish? Is that jellyfish UFO real? That thing was
You
over
know
Iraq.
something. You must know something.
Human intelligence gathering. Remember, human is my speciality. I've never seen an alien department, but if ever I do go into any of the intelligence agency buildings and see an alien department, then I will. I promise I'll report back
I'm
to
going to
you.
reframe the question. Would you be
We're
shocked?
bringing you back.
But would you be shocked? Would you be shocked if aliens were real?
Wouldn't be shocked at all.
Okay, I got the answer I wanted.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna accept that as
Wait,
a yes.
take that how you want.
Aliens are here. Gavin Stone has said aliens are real.
With our dyslexic aliens that went to Miami instead of Antarctica.
I can see how
Got
this
it.
is going to end up for me. It's going to be like, so I said aliens are real and get your mental health through gambling poker.
All right, tell me what this is. Have you heard of UVB 76?
UVB 76. No, unless they were a pop group from the 70s, not mine.
It's a Russian number station. This is what it sounds like, right? It's still live. It's been running, I think, since the 60s or the 50s, maybe even the 40s, since World War II. And it's a number station. And it's still running right now. And here's what it's doing right now. So it's just broadcasting static right now.
Wow.
But it's also done this in the past.
Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. 82 890. Женя, Анна, Николай, Роман, Ольга, Николай, Анна, Цапли, Иван. 13 68 06 04.
That's it. It just repeats that over and over again.
Right.
So what is that?
At a guess, and I'm just going off some of the work that I've done in the past, that is some kind of a safety net that is going to be there for people working out in the field, that is constant, that is non-stop. So, for example, I'll work out in the field on a particular job. If you're in a foreign country, even if you're, depending on where you are, you can't just use a telephone and just call a number and say, hey, I want to speak to the boss. Sometimes there has to be ways of sending covert messages. So to do that, there might be systems like websites that are in place. And these are completely innocent looking websites. That it could be a dating site, it could be a pottery making site, whatever. And you just go on it and you make an inquiry. You just hit the inquiry form and you make an inquiry, and then you can use veiled speech to kind of give a sit rep. Now, on the other hand, there might be something that I might need information from them. So I will go on to a weather site. And it'll say Monday and Tuesday is going to be fine, but Wednesday is going to be really, really bad. And that's telling me that Wednesday I need to be out of Dodge, or I need to get the job done by Wednesday, or so the indications of the weather forecast in a particular area will basically tell me, this is when we're going to do your exfiltration or whatever the case may be. So
these.
So with that in mind, that this broadcast station sounds like a way of having a constant signal that's been going for so many years that nobody takes any notice of it. But if they need to send a blanket lot of information out to operatives in the field, they can adjust one thing, and that one thing will send a message to them to say it's safe to come home, or you need to get back now, or you need to stop what you're doing, or you've been compromised, or whatever the case may be, like an emergency kind of signal that everybody knows the frequency and everybody can get to.
So these number stations are real. These are real things. Have you interacted with some of these?
The closest thing I ever got to, I went to. Have you heard of the Dugo radio station in Russia?
Nope.
Oh, brilliant! It's like a giant, weird-looking rectangular aerial, and it's kind of. Oh, I can't even imagine how high the damn thing is. But if you've got me on my Facebook, you can see a photo of me standing next to it, and if it's this big, I'm like a little dot here, and it goes on for about a mile. There's some fantastic drone footage flying over it. That was the long distance kind of sensor, as it were. It's nicknamed the woodpecker. And during the Cold War, I know, yeah. I'll tell you the reason why in a while. But during the Cold War, that was the long-range sensor for nuclear weapons that were being fired from other countries or the US. So, because they wanted to pick it up straight away so they could react. There's a short range, and the short range would only allow them 30 minutes to respond. And within that 30 minutes, they wouldn't have enough time. So there's basically a guy in a station that has to press a big red button if that picks up any nuclear weapons being launched. And it interfered with all the local TV and radios. If the wind blew through it, all the local TV and radio stations would get this going on, and that was why it was called the woodpecker, because it sounded like a woodpecker. So,
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to get you out here on two more questions. All right.
okay.
You wrote you wrote a book, a fictional spy book, and I heard on a podcast that you were on that a first draft of this book, you said that one of the things in it was so detailed that it could have started World War III.
Yeah.
So let's go viral. Let's do something here. Let's start a war. We're 1 minute from the nuclear clock anyway, from the end of from midnight anyway. Let's start a war. Let's start World War III here, and let's give us something juicy from that draft.
Something juicy. Okay. Well, what I will tell you,
can,
at the particular time in question, there was a certain prime minister in this country. I'm sure you'll know who it is. I'll just say we'll use the word Tony Hare for now, and if you can't figure out who it is from that, then there's something wrong.
No idea.
No. So Tony was involved in certain things when it come to invasions in the Middle East, and during my course of being prompted to find out certain information, I inadvertently found out information about him, which then led to, it just had a domino effect of, it was like tennis, like, well, I've found that out, and that's because of this. So I went and investigated that, and I went, oh, but that's because of this. And I was just backwards and forth. And I was just gathering more and more and more intelligence till in the end, I kind of gave everything over and just said, this is way above my pay grade now. Off you go. And so it kind of goes back to that question earlier when you said, have you ever found out anything that you wish you hadn't? That was just, I just opened a can of worms and just handed it over and just said, yeah, your mess.
and they buried it, probably, is what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I hadn't kept quiet for as long, they'd have probably buried me along with it as well. So there you go. You heard it here first.
And here you are. You're still here.
Yeah. So if I go missing in the next kind of week or two, then, it's your fault.
Then I'm going to be real nervous.
Dimitri asked that question.
I'm going to be looking at my Ring camera and being like, who's that weird guy with a British accent at my door? Hello, love. We're just here to talk to you.
Yeah, I get outfired.
See, you could be Bond. There you go.
I don't think so. So last question, we're going to get you out on here. Who is your English Premier League team?
Oh, Joe, it's such a cultural thing here in the UK. Everybody supports a football team. And I get asked all the time, Gavin, who do you support? And I say, I can barely support myself, never mind a football team. So what I do, I was born in the middle of England in a town called Wolverhampton. And our local
Wolves.
The Wolves, everybody. And that's probably why I'm such a wolf. I'm a fanatic when it comes to the animal. So yeah, I go with the Wolves purely by default.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, we've gone, and it's been what, 35 minutes now, 45 minutes. I could go another hour and a half with you. I've got so many questions, but we're gonna have to cut it off at some point. So this would probably be the best time. Thank you so much for coming on. When the conspiracy of the aliens finally is dropped on the world, I'd love to have you back to let us know that you knew this all along and the department that it was in. This was fantastic. It was great.
Well, Thank you for having me. It was enjoyable.